Welcome to Learning Module 1, Folktales and Fairy Tales. This learning module will take you approximately 1 hour to complete. At the end of this learning module, you will complete a quiz based on the module materials. All module materials, including readings, videos, articles, and web links, may appear in the quiz. I suggest you take notes as you watch the videos and read all material carefully. Before beginning the quiz, make sure that you are ready to complete it, as you only have one attempt. Read the provided instructions carefully to ensure you avoid submission errors. This learning module will also provide you the theory to help you with your upcoming folktale analysis assignment. In this learning module, we will be referring to folktales found in our Blackboard resources. On the left side of our Blackboard page, scroll down to the Reading section. Clicking on the Folktale eBooks button will take you to a page that lists anthologies of folktales, fairy tales, and fables. Select any of the anthologies and sign in through the Seneca Library to access the stories. Once you sign in, click on the PDF full text button on the left of the screen to access the ebook content. Each book will have a table of contents on the left of the screen for you to navigate between the stories. Some of the stories referenced in this learning module are Little Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel, The Story of the Three Little Pigs, The Hare and the Tortoise, Cinderella, and Puss in Boots. If you are not familiar with these stories, please take the time to read them before continuing with this learning module. You can see the story list below the video of this learning module page. Folk narratives are some of the oldest and most loved stories. But what makes a folktale different from other stories? Folk refers to common people. These stories were not written by professional authors, but were told by everyday people through generations. Many of these tales were developed long ago, so we aren't even sure of exactly how old they are. We can only loosely estimate the age of the folktales based on the content of each story. Some famous authors, like Hans Christian Andersen and the Brothers Grimm, compiled these tales into collections in the 19th century, but we cannot know for sure who originally came up with these stories. These authors are merely retellers, and are not the original creators of these narratives. As these stories were told before many people knew how to read and write, storytellers would have to relate the story from memory. Consider a story you initially heard from a friend on a Monday at school. On Tuesday, you may decide to retell the story to a different friend. As you try to remember the story as you tell it, most of the main points of the story stay the same. But it is unlikely that you would be able to recall the exact wording. You may even accidentally change some slight details. The same effect applies to the retelling of children's stories. For this reason, you can find different versions of popular folktales in different collections. These stories may have similar titles and wording, but they are not exactly the same. For example, in some versions of Little Red Riding Hood and the grandmother are eaten by the wolf. In other versions, a woodsman saves both Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother. These minor differences are called variants. You may have heard the phrases folktale and fairy tale used interchangeably. So what's the difference between a folktale and a fairy tale? Folktales are stories developed through popular culture. The stories relate to the issues and concerns of the society in which they were made. For example, the story of Hansel and Gretel was created approximately in the 16th century. In the story, the two children are tempted by a house made of sweets. In our modern society, a gingerbread house may not be very tempting to modern children with easy access to vending machines. However, This would be an extreme temptation in the 16th century, where hunger and starvation were widespread. Fairy tales fall under the umbrella of folk tales. While many folk tales are derived from real-life events, fairy tales, also known as wonder tales, involve magical objects and creatures such as witches, ogres, dragons, or fairies. To be considered a fairy tale, a folk tale must include magic. Therefore, all fairy tales are folk tales, but not all folk tales are fairy tales. You'll learn about other different types of folk tales later in this learning module. For now, let's consider some main characteristics of folk tales. Once upon a time in a kingdom far, far away. Does this sound familiar? This is the typical opening to many folk tales, and we rarely get anything more specific than this. The settings are often simple, and we are rarely given specific countries, cities, or towns. The setting is distant in both time and place, so that the environment is allowed to be enchanted. Since these worlds are so distant from our own location, the reader understands this to be a place where animals may talk, strange creatures may appear, and magic may occur. The characters often follow this trend. Folktale characters are simple and uncomplicated. Many characters aren't even given real names, but are instead provided descriptive labels, like the king, the wicked witch, or the lumberjack. For characters who are given names, they often merely describe their character's traits or appearance. Prince Charming's personality is, shockingly, charming. The characters are often one-dimensional and do not display any sort of depth. Additionally, a character's appearance usually coincides with his or her personality. A beautiful princess will always be good and kind, while an ugly witch will always be evil and cruel. Even characters such as the Beast in Beauty and the Beast follow this rule. While he is initially ugly and terrifying, he is always deep down a handsome prince. As his personality changes, so does his outward appearance. Click to the next module page to see a list of common character types.